How's it going, everybody? My name is JustJarrod, but you can just call me Jared, your one-stop shop for legendary loot news. And today we are taking a closer look at the loot in Outriders, the new co-op shooter from People Can Fly that was just officially completely revealed earlier today via a live stream. First off, to introduce you to what Outriders is, if you have absolutely no idea, it's a third-person RPG co-op shooter. You can play solo or up to a team of 3. It's heavily focused on its dark and twisted sci-fi fantasy storyline, which is at the epicenter of the game. It is not open world, just open areas with exploration, side quests, things you'd expect in an RPG. You play as a human character who has been altered by something called the Anomaly, and these alterations are basically superpowers. From what I've gathered and what others have said about the gameplay, think Division meets Destiny meets Anthem kinda, but not Anthem in the bad way, which is almost every way, anyways, not the point. The point is, it has cover-based shooting like the Division, powers like Destiny, and ability cooldowns like Anthem, where your guns and gear are secondary to your powers and abilities. That's the very short introduction to what Outriders is. As always, I'll leave a ton of links down in the description if you want to learn more about the game other than just the loot. Speaking of the loot, let's jump in. Here's what we know about the loot in Outriders. First off, unfortunately for us loot addicts, Outriders is not a looter shooter in the sense that we are used to nowadays. Sure, you shoot guys, you get loot, you get gear drops from enemies, but that doesn't make it a looter shooter. In Mass Effect Andromeda, you kill guys and loot drops from them, but we don't call it a looter shooter. So big thanks to Game Informer for their misinformation once again, where they literally said just yesterday that it's a looter shooter. Why am I not surprised? Anyways, there is an end to Outriders. You get through the story, that's it. The devs say there will be some endgame stuff, but there's no live service features or anything planned like that for this game. It's a co-op RPG, period. But there's still loot, so let's talk about it. We'll get to my personal opinions at the end of this video. Loot drops from enemies how you'd expect. Nothing new there, and there doesn't have to be, I guess. Loot comes in 5 rarities, from what I can tell from the reveal livestream and other gameplay now circling the web. These rarities don't necessarily have names tied to them, so we'll just throw up the generic ones so everybody knows what I'm talking about. It looks like you've got common white items, green uncommon items, blue rare items, purple legendary items, and orange exotic or unique items. You can equip 3 guns at one time, and you have armor slots for helmet, chest, pants, gloves, and boots. The currency in the game is called scrap. You can trade scrap at different vendors for gear, and some vendors have unique gear pieces you can only buy from them with scrap, and dismantling things you do not want gives you scrap. Do note that this is an RPG. It's not like Destiny, where the only vendors in the entire game are at the tower in one space. As you explore the world, you'll find different settlements with different vendors and characters to interact with, side quests that net you unique loot, etc. It looks like there's a wide assortment of guns. I've seen pistols, snipers, shotguns, assault rifles so far. There's also alien-like weaponry that you start finding once you get further into the game and the storyline. There seems to be a ton of different stats that can roll on gear. The main 3 attributes on weapons are accuracy, stability, and range. Then you have clip size, RPM, damage, reload speed, and crit multiplier, all of which determine the weapon's overall firepower score, which is shown on the weapon. You also have an anomaly power score, which I'm assuming is your skill power. This score is accumulated from all your armor pieces combined. So, what makes each item rarity different from one another? Well, white items drop with no attributes at all. Green items drop with 3 attributes. Examples of these attributes are armor piercing, long range damage, crit damage, and anomaly leech, which I'm assuming is ability cooldown. Blue gear has modifications on them, which seem to be like more powerful attributes like toxic bullets, which does what you think it does. Purple items have 2 of these modifications, and orange items or exotic loot comes with unique modifications and have some set bonuses for having more than 1 piece equipped from the same set. From what I've heard around the internet, loot actually looks good. The highest rarity items look unique, look cool, look almost alien-like. The devs did say that the further you get in the game, the more wicked, dark, twisted, and crazy gear you'll find, like this purple rarity shotgun called the Bulwark. the Inferno Seed AR that inflicts bleed on enemies, and the Heir to the Desert AR that deals toxic damage and has ricocheting bullets. As far as customization goes, besides changing your hairstyle, hair color, face, things like that, we're not sure if there will be armor customization, like the ability to change the color of your armor or maybe transmog it into a style of an armor piece you've previously acquired. There is a customization tab in the inventory screen, but we don't know what that is exactly. We do know you'll be able to customize your Outriders vehicle with different parts that you find throughout the game. This vehicle acts as your home base while you're out exploring. The devs said you'll find customization parts for your vehicle, like if you kill a big monster, you can put its head on the front of your vehicle to show off. Kind of cool mini loot aspect to the game, although I'm going to assume that the vehicle customization is solely that and has no gameplay implications because the devs say you don't actually get to drive it yourself. Last thing I forgot to mention about the loot, when loot drops in the world, there is no giant, bright, crazy looking beam of light that shoots up from the ground like in loot-based games. It's a lot more subtle in Outriders, and that's because of the dark tone and probably the fact that loot isn't the main focus of the game. Besides diving super deep into every single weapon we see in the gameplay and detailing every single stat and attribute that can roll on gear, that's basically all the information that I have for you for now on the loot in Outriders. This new information just came out today, so I'm sure all over the next few days new details will arrive and new loot will surface, but for now that's about it. As for my opinions on Outriders, how I feel about the game after watching the live stream and watching other content creators' videos on the game, I'm more excited for the story of Outriders than the actual loot in Outriders. It is not a looter shooter, which isn't a bad thing. A lot of people are tired of looter shooters and loot-based games, but I'm not. I don't think I'll ever be. That's why this channel exists. That's why I only talk about loot games and specifically focus on only the loot in loot games, because that's why I play games. Outriders is an RPG that you can play with friends if you want to. I like RPGs, so if I buy Outriders, that'll be the reason. For the story and the world, not the loot. I've heard that the main focus of the game is the abilities and the skill trees, with guns and loot being secondary. To me, that turns me off of the loot aspect pretty quickly, as well as certain gear only being obtainable from vendors. I'd rather have everything drop randomly, but I understand it's hard to do that in this game because it's story driven. They don't want players to struggle to progress the story just because they aren't lucky enough with loot drops. Makes sense, because it's an RPG and not a looter game. Honestly, I was super hyped 2 days ago when Game Informer released a video and blatantly said that Outriders is a looter shooter. Now, I don't really know. Honestly, weird that I'm going to say this, I've got to say that I'm more excited for the revamped Division 2 more than I am for Outriders in terms of loot, and that's saying something because I already have a video on Division 2 where I basically say the loot is boring as hell. So that's saying something. I'm not saying Outriders is going to be bad or anything like that. I'm just not as into it as I would have been had it been more focused around the loot. Now it is super early, things might change, who knows. If things change for the better in terms of loot, I'll be covering that here. Anything around the loot that excites me, I'll be talking about here. So there's that. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'd like to know your opinions on Outriders down below. So far from the reveal today, I've seen a lot of mixed opinions. Let me know what you think. Follow me on Twitter for more loot related news and just general loot stuff. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a like as it helps the video get out to more people, and consider subscribing for more epic loot news. Until next time, have a legendary day, night, afternoon. Peace out.